Hey, what's up? It's Deanna. So today I'm going to tell you a little something that might make you feel like, wow. Like you're going to be like, I can't believe that people was so stupid. So, back in the mid-century, anything that was made out of textiles, for example, rugs, blankets, toys, furniture, um, coats, clothing, you name it, anything made out of textiles or fabrics were treated with pesticides. And when I say pesticides, they doused toys, even toys, with chemicals that were actually very dangerous. And here's one example of that. The teddy bear on the bottom right was made by Steiff and in Germany, and it was doused with a product called Eulan, Eulan. Eulan, actually, I don't know if they're still using Eulan. I do know the name Eulan is no longer in use as it had lost its patent, and they changed the name to Eulan, Eudlan, I believe. So it was made by the Bayer company in Germany, and as we know, Bayer actually was a pretty nefarious company. In World War II, Bayer actually utilized concentration camp uh, people. So like the people that were housed in the concentration camps, the Jews and the Roma gypsies and American GIs and so on, actually had to do slave labor for Bayer Corporation in Germany. And so these people were marched daily to the Bayer factories and forced to work under duress. And so Bayer was one of them. There were other companies doing this as well, even in Japan. So in Japan, for example, the Mitsubishi company, who we know makes cars and TVs and electronics, were also making jet fighter planes. And they took POWs, American POWs, and forced them to do slave labor, making, I guess, ammunition and fighter planes and whatnot. So back to Bayer. So Bayer had this product. They also make pharmaceuticals, but they make chemicals. And they had this product called Eulan. And for example, a lot of Steiff toys from the 1940s, 50s, 60s had hang tags hanging from their chests. I'm sorry I don't have one to show you. But on the back of the logo of the chest tag, a lot of them had the logo of Bayer, and in German it said "I'm moth proof," or basically like moth proof, and it had the Eulan logo, which was invented by Bayer. And so these toys, now mind you, what do you notice about babies? Babies like to take things and put them in their mouth. So, say for example, you bought this for your child back in the late 1950s to the 1960s. A lot of these were doused in pesticides known as Eulan. And so your child could have taken that teddy bear and placed that teddy bear in their mouth and had pesticides and very, very dangerous chemicals in their bloodstream. So I know they don't do that anymore, but nonetheless, it's quite nefarious and quite frightening if you think about that. That is absolutely sick. And so now, if you're collecting old textiles, for example, like wool rugs from the mid-century, old vintage clothes, be careful because you're a lot of the stuff, made, especially made out of wool, was doused in Eulan, and once you have that on the product, there's no getting it off. Dry cleaning, even washing, it's not going to work. So you're going to handle these items. It's going to go into your bloodstream. You have to be very careful. Museums also use things like this. They douse a lot of the textiles in pesticides to protect them from moths and insects. And a lot of the people in the museum who handle these items had to wear gloves and masks. So God knows only what some of the items from 100 years ago had been doused with much more dangerous chemicals. And for example, Eulan is very similar to such pesticides as DDT. And we all know DDT was really a dangerous product that polluted waterways. It killed off a lot of the bald eagles and the animals like birds and so on and so forth. And also Zyklon B. And we all have heard of Zyklon B. Zyklon B was actually used to murder millions of Jewish people and Roma gypsies and anyone who didn't follow the Nazis in World War II. So it was a gas that was actually used as an insecticide. And it was also used to kill germs. And they placed it in the air chambers of rooms in, like, say, Auschwitz and some other concentration camps, and sealed people in these rooms and set off the gas, and it murdered millions upon millions of people. So these toys, if you look at them, that's quite frightening. I don't know if you can see. This one, again, was probably treated with Eulan. This one over here was not treated with Eulan. And I'll show you what happens when they're not treated with Eulan. So this 1950s Steiff teddy bear, as you can see here, has felt paw pads. And the moths like to go at it. They love wool, and they love felt. And so over the years, you might get a moth or two, and they'll actually bore their way into the paw pads of these old teddy bears. And they chew up the straw that's inside there, and it was made out of some kind of excelsia or straw stuffing. So this one was not treated with Eulan, and you have this type of damage, and this one was. And as you can see, there's absolutely no moth damage. And so Zadi over here, his name is Zadi, and Zadel was actually what Zadi was named after. And Zadel means shaggy in German. So Shaggy the bear over here was treated with very dangerous pesticides and given to children. So I thought you guys would be interested in hearing about that. Now, if you're going to handle old textiles and fabrics and rugs and blankets and vintage clothing, be very careful. Make sure you wash your hands after you touch them, because chances are you're going to have that pesticide introduced to your skin, and it could possibly go into your bloodstream. I'm going to be washing my hands very carefully after this, because I did handle Zadi over here, who was most likely treated with Eulan. And he has another 1950s Steiff teddy bear. And as you can see, his paw pads are absolutely pristine. And he was most likely treated with Eulan. This is a Swiss bear, and it was most likely treated with Eulan. As you can see, the paw pads are fine. And so these were dangerous products. And thank goodness we have very high safety standards these days. And more studies were done on the chemicals that fabrics were once doused in. Thanks for watching.